So there we go. We're live.
How's it, guys? Another North South. Uh, Jordan, second half of the documentary, Darren.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll repeat what we said last week, but yeah, in a nutshell, this is like it's a sports documentary, which is niche, but it's somehow been rated as like one of the best, documentaries slash series of all time.
yeah.
Um, as well as the cinematography, the score, which is music, and the way it was structured, episode to episode, so on and so forth. So we split it first
But
5 episodes um in one podcast, and we on to the second half. Well, you'd naturally think that it would be like the first half of his career, and then we'd be speaking about the second half, but it's weird, which is
yeah.
what makes it.
So yeah, I think the from episode 6, that kind of goes into when he goes into that his or it's episode 6 starts off with showing how he's like hounded by the public all the time, and how much attention he gets. Um, and yeah, the scene of him just sitting in the hotel room, just saying, "Yeah, this is like the best moment," just sitting in a hotel room by himself. Uh,
I don't know, man. For me, it feels like he knew that he was always so premature to start wanting to retire and quit. When you look at nowadays, like LeBron and guys, no matter how many rings they have, they just can keep going. Like, for example, he maybe doesn't have rings and stuff, but I mean, Vince Carter played in four different decades. These guys have been around forever. He didn't play for 40 years. What do you mean? He played in the 90s, zeros, noughties, like all the decades, including this one. So to see him keep wanting to quit like that, it just shows that how extreme the other side of it was. That he could only take like a decade or so off it before he goes on saying in later episodes that now he does what he loves.
but you've also got to remember as well that, like, say, look at Vince Carter. He's not Michael Jordan. What he was.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
So like Michael Jordan was a superstar among, yeah,
Mm.
the very elite of the elite. So he got
Yeah,
a lot more attention than Vince Carter.
that's very true, man. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, it shows he could only take so many years of it. Does I keep forgetting because I watch them all in a row, but which was it episode 5 that covered Jordan's dad's murder?
No, they
Um,
came up in, I think, episode 6 or 7.
oh, yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. One side says that it was just Jordan's dad stopping off at the side of the road, going to visit family or whatever, taking a nap in between, which may sound weird to South Africans, but like in first world countries, you can do things like that. You can stop on the side of the road and sleep. It's a lot safer than driving. You just take a small nap. And he was approached by two guys who killed him and whatnot and dumped his body and stuff. But then you get a whole lot of people saying that it was unpaid gambling debt to the mob and whatnot. Like, that's insane, man. That's a twist that a superstar like Michael Jordan, you wouldn't expect a twist like that to happen in his crystal clear life.
Yeah, it's. I guess it did tarnish his career at that point. I see your pictures jumped there, but anyway, uh, yeah. So it did tarnish it, but I think there's a lot of just speculation in that, and a lot of stuff that's, yeah,
Exactly,
unsubstantiated.
speculation, exactly. But I mean, the guy was indicted, and he was found with a check from Michael Jordan for 100K or whatnot. I mean, that's pretty serious. I mean, what is a drug kingpin doing with money? And Jordan said it was some odd reason, but then when Jordan himself was under oath, gave the truth that it was actually for a gambling debt. So it's rumors, but I mean, if you're going to look at what happened in episode 7, 8, 9, and the rest of them, you got to think like to have gone through that and still continued
Mm.
to get better, to sort of go through the different sort of teams he had to go through and the different dynamics of the East and West Conference at that time. You're talking Utah and Indiana in those decades. I mean, those teams have players on them that were playing at that point in time that are top three all time sort of leaders in things like assists and things like that. So you're playing against the greatest, and that obviously was probably his way to show that even after the first three-peat, even after the massive personal tragedy, he was still able to come back and show. and basically show us forever, whatever decade he was in, whatever time he would have been in this world during the NBA, he would have come back and dominated, which does, in a way, secure him as the greatest.
Yeah,
For me, the
definitely.
personal tragedy.
Yeah, it does, but you could see like yeah, obviously, with his father passing and that it hits him hard. Obviously, because yeah, he retired after that season basically.
Yeah.
But then there's also speculation around that whether it was uh, because of this gambling that the NBA actually kind of put him on an 18-month ban. But
Yeah,
that's
listen,
also
man, the NBA commissioner at time, David Stern,
mm,
um, recently passed away as well. He and the rest of the officials in the NBA respected Jordan because you got to also look back at the previous episodes. What was the NBA before Jordan? There weren't sneakers attached to it. There weren't ads attached to it. There wasn't that much. It wasn't that flashy, like I explained in the first series. What a dunk was, pretty much, beside one or two guys like Dr. J and them. It's just pick the ball up, stand right there, just jump straight up, and you can barely reach it, and you just put it in. And then you came Jordan, just flying from all different directions. It literally looked like Superman flying from all different directions. So he changed the game. So they saw him as literally their bread and butter. There's lots of videos going around. They mic up a lot of players. They mic up a lot of refs in the USA of refs not calling a foul. Michael going to him and saying, going to the ref and saying, call the foul. He fouled me. He put his hands up, and the ref saying, okay, Michael, I'll call the foul. I believe you, and they call the foul. So they openly do it for him. I'm talking about his Wizards years, but you could see what kind of pull he had in the league. So definitely, I think there's like a close to 90% chance he got a ban.
mm,
And a caveat to that ban is the fact I think he got banned for betting on the Bulls winning. I think that's why he wasn't banned from the NBA because who the hell bets on himself to win, man? That's crazy, man. You know what I'm saying?
that's bringing a lot of speculation into it. So yeah, it's difficult to say. I wouldn't. Well, we wouldn't know because Jordan and the rest around him, like you say, because he was the bread and butter, they would lie or just to make sure that it's all kept a secret or under covers kind of thing. Because if that did come out, that would really tarnish this yeah the NBA's star basically. So yeah, that's quite interesting, and something we need to touch on at the end as well is his time at the Wizards because they say this is the last dance, but that was just yeah obviously that it wasn't his.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't the
It,
last time.
yeah,
Dude, you'll be surprised, man. A lot of people thought if he was done after that. They don't know about his Wizards years. Like I'm talking about a lot of people.
yeah, and he's is he a owner now of the Hornets or something, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's from North Carolina, so
Mm.
naturally he'd go back there. Their team is Charlotte Hornets. Um, you'd always see if you watch like First Take or one of Fox's ones, they always talk about Michael Jordan being the best player or the best athlete or the best basketball, but one of the worst general managers or owners or anything like that. So like the dichotomy of that is insane. He has like no credibility as an owner or a part-time owner or general manager or a coach or anything to do besides taking the ball himself and playing. He's
Yeah,
really bad at it. I think that's due to his vices.
yeah, but yeah, let's get back to uh, the Last Dance. Yeah,
Mm.
obviously he played baseball for a bit, for and at quite what a semi-professional level.
Do you think that do you think that him playing or getting a contract with the Sox, do you think it shows how good of an athlete he was, or do you think it actually shows what a difficult sport baseball is?
I don't know. I think a bit of both. It shows that he was just a raw athlete, and
Mm.
obviously his passion growing up was baseball because of his father as well.
Mm.
Um, so he had that inkling from quite a young age. Um, but yeah, I just think
Do
it
you,
shows
do you
how.
think do you think what he said is the actual truth, the reason why he left the NBA and retired for that 18 months was because of his dad dying and his dad's wish of him wanting to be a baseball player? Or do you somehow think, also likely, It's an amalgamation of all the different situations. He got banned. He found the right reason. It actually was the reason. If he thought about it, it would be good for him to go into a different sport and get his mind off stuff. Um, what do you think from watching? What does the evidence show to you? Because I obviously I've already said what I thought it was. I think he got caught gambling. I mean, you're gambling on everything. Imagine you betting on sports cars and you show up on the sports car. That's crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna
Uh,
be hard for a gambler to deal with that.
well, since you've said that now, I think my stance would probably be amalgamation, because why would you? Yeah, obviously, yeah, his father wanted him to play baseball and that. But why would you, like, throw away? You've just you well, didn't they just won the championship, didn't they? When you
Hmm.
so he's just won the championship, and you saying, okay, that's it, and you calling quits basically on your career,
Yeah.
at such quite an early, I would say early-ish
Yeah.
stage of his
Yeah.
career.
From what I can see, the timeline goes like this in the Jordan prime years. He wins his first one, he wins his second one, he wins his third one, he retires. Half the season or more than half the season goes by. Scottie Pippen takes over, does quite well. Jordan comes back, gets him into the playoffs, gets knocked out. Next 3 seasons after that, they win again. So within that time span of however you want to call it, 6, 7, 8 years, those were his prime years, and those
Mm.
are the magnificent stats everyone draws on. But like the series, which so lovely shows, there were times when people dominated him. There were times when people made him cry. There were times when people Jordan.
Mm.
Like you got to remember what Isaiah Thomas and those guys did to him, to the point where I think they probably still don't like each other,
Well, they
for not
don't.
shaking hands and things like that. So you got to imagine, you got to look at what made the person, and also what they became at the end. And we'll talk about that in episode 9 and 10, when we'll comment on his eyes, or something like that. We'll talk about maybe his personality, and especially if I forget, remind me to speak about what actually made him cry. The only thing that made him cry in the interview. So interesting is the guy's mindset. If you think about everything he spoke about, he didn't cry when he spoke about his dad or anything like that. Speak
But
about thing
yeah,
that made him cry.
we can maybe move on to that then. Is like, I think also, there was a book written in that also brought in to some respects the gambling side of things, which also added fuel to the fire of that. But then yeah, moving on after playing baseball, decides, okay, he's gonna train, he's gonna practice. I think that was around when Space Jam was being filmed, um,
Yeah.
and he was, yeah, obviously he had some of the guys that he, or the NBA guys, come and play one on one and practice and that with him
Oh,
at the
I think
Space
we should
Jam.
let's get into some of the NBA guys there.
Yeah.
How's that for a backdoor reverse psychology type way? Those guys, it's debatable or not whether they knew he was coming back, okay?
Mm.
One, he loves basketball. Two, it's Michael Jordan. You're gonna go if he calls you, okay? So maybe he's bored, he's filming a movie, he wants to play, everyone can or whatever, and he does that. But in the back of Jordan's mind, he's like, listen, if I'm actually gonna come back, I'm gonna struggle all the rest of the years that I'm there, sitting in what do they call their film rooms, analyzing these guys, trying a different way, to try and beat them and things like that. Maybe I'll just invite them over and act like their friend and find out their weaknesses and their strengths. The entire NBA at the same time invites the best, all of them, and they all come, which just shows how much pull he has.
Yeah, that was quite mad, and also the sentiment that he said, like he was using that as to see who's the threats, and but mark out how to beat this player and that player. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And then obviously once that happened, then he did, yeah, step back in and decide to come out of retirement, and then yeah, walks basically straight back into the team. Um, I think the first game back, he came on. They just lost or something like that, but then they won 3 or 4 on the trot. Um, so you could, he said there was a bit of rust there, obviously, because even his trainer was saying that it's a
Yeah,
completely,
obviously a bit of ring rust.
yeah, his trainer was saying that it's a different way of training, a different way of playing, or playing when it comes to basketball and baseball. Um, but then yes, yeah, walks back in, gets a few games under the belt, and seems like things are starting to flow again. And there's some new faces as well in the team. Like you said, when he came back, there was a lot of new guys. Is it Steve Kerr?
Steve Kerr, who's like a major role right now. He still is coach of the Warriors for their whole dynasty. He's been there since the beginning. He might have even drafted as far back as Steph Curry. So he's been there since the beginning. He's been in a dynasty, and I don't know, maybe that's another podcast we can get into. Did he create a dynasty? Because certain Mr. Kawhi Leonard had something to say about that.
um, but yeah, so you can carry on.
Yeah, so whereabout are we now? Getting
We
into the eighth episode.
Yeah, eighth episode.
We're getting into the part now where he comes back and he gets knocked out that year again. But I mean, you can't blame him. He's pretty much fighting a hopeless case. And then he goes on to sort of the main crux now of where his opinion of, you see, Jordan, he wanted to appeal to the entire country of America. So he was the definition of PC. And in a way still is like, if Jordan says something, like, the world would listen. It doesn't really say much. So he starts speaking about how much he wanted to win, how much these new guys like whoever it was, like Paxton and these guys, can't remember exactly. There was one guy with the European type name that came in,
Croatian guy.
and he needed to mold them in his way, and the only reason he knew how to do it was to make them want to win as much as he wanted to win. And that's so interesting. That's the only time he cried.
Yeah.
He cried because he was basically realizing in the interview what it was looking like. It was looking like he's an asshole. And you must remember, every single backstory that comes from rappers and producers and all the people who sort of idolize him but are not in his circles, keeping in mind Jordan's circles are billionaires, because Jordan's a billionaire. When they ask him for autographs and things like that, he sort of like tells them off, like, get away from me, N-word, and crazy things like that. Coming from quite credible sources who said he said that. So he's very conscious of his image, because his sneakers and everything are pinned on that. And if he's seen as not liking the black community, I mean, his sneaker sales would go down massively. So if the black community, or whoever America sees him as this mean, horrible person that's been portrayed in a different way by the media, that's the only part that gets him emotional. And in a way that can be linked to his competitiveness, in my opinion. Because he doesn't say much before he says, let's take a break. You can see him starting to cry. He says, well, if they didn't want to win and they didn't want to play that way, they didn't have to play that way. And he starts crying. What a weird, like, you could unpack that in so many different ways. You need like a professional on to try and tell you what that means. Because there's so many other parts he could have started crying during the interview, recounting his first championship, his dad's death, any of those things. And the weird thing that makes him cry is the part that tries to portray his image in a certain way, which is crazy to me.
Well, I didn't see it in that light. When I watched it, well, maybe I didn't analyze it as deeply as you, but I kind of just thought that he was just, yeah, it was just, he had so much passion and that for that Bulls side and winning, that, and had such a drive. That all he wanted to do is take people along with him, and I think he was realizing then that when, him shouting and calling everyone like a shit and swearing them and
punching Steve Kerr and things like that.
Yeah, that maybe, obviously he's maybe realizing that it maybe wasn't what every other person would do.
It's a professional environment, basically. It's a work environment, you can trash talk stuff, you can't hit people, which he did a lot, and go at them a lot verbally. There's a lot of rumors about like him really going at people who couldn't take it and like really degrading them down to the point where like their careers sputtered off. So there's a lot of back talk that hasn't been official. And he has a very, very good PR team, man, that's run and backed heavily by Nike, so it's spotless. So to see that side, I find absolutely incredible, man. I really, really do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why his eyes were red. There were a bunch of times he was crying that they actually cut out.
Possibly. But yeah, I think he was just realizing that, and then also just maybe taking in that he's had to push these people kind of thing, maybe in a harsh manner. but in a way as well, he's pushing them to succeed. So yeah, I didn't see it as that
Yeah.
negative.
Yeah, so I guess those are basically like the two different sides you could see it. Because now that you say that, that really, like, you could really see it like that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Um, so now we're getting to the part where he basically does it all again, man. He three-peats again, creates another dynasty. Just another quick one.
yeah,
End of the 90s. Let's get into another dynasty here. Got a nice movie, had some fun in a different professional league, got all the love and praise I needed from that sort of realm. You know,
and it's also
let's create another dynasty real quick. Another three in a row.
and yeah, with a brand new team basically. I think it was only Scottie Pippen that was basically the only stalwart from the previous championship side.
Basically, that's about it. That's
Uh,
about it.
so yeah, they had 1 year together where they made it to the playoffs, but I think they got knocked out in the first round of playoffs. Um, and then so they've just had that 1 year. Next year, win the championship, and not that one was it the Indiana Pacers or
I
was
think
it
so. Yeah.
the Jazz?
The order confuses me. It always does.
But yeah,
Uh,
quite a, I yeah quite a, I think it was the Jazz that time.
Probably was. Yeah.
That
Karl
was
Malone
Karl
and
Malone, yes, yeah. And then yeah, move on. Uh, Things are the same the following year, just a different. I think that's when the Pacers. Um,
yeah. Interesting team, the Pacers, because apparently they matched the Bulls a lot one-on-one physically. Like they had a scoring guard that for some reason I always speak about him and always remember him. For some reason his name escapes me. But if you watch the documentary, you'll know who I'm
Not
talking about.
Miller or something.
I think it might be. He was one of the one people in that entire documentary who gave Jordan some Jordan treatment in
Mm.
certain points in time, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
Gave
really
it as good
did.
as he got it.
And yeah, I think that was also part and parcel of the final series, the third championship, is when,
Mm,
uh, yeah, the well the Bulls were obviously favorites to win it. They went through the first game, and the Bulls won. Second game comes around, and the Bulls annihilate them. I think
mm,
yeah, the Pacers it's the lowest score ever in an NBA game. They scored only 54 points after 4 quarters, and
yeah,
Bulls were around 96 or something. Beat them by like 40 odd points.
yeah.
Uh,
And in around that near episode, they make a very good point about the reality of home court advantage, because it appears everywhere in sport. If you seed it higher, you get it. In sports betting, home team generally will get a slight advantage. But in reality, Darren, the field's the same. So where's it coming from? What intangible are we talking about here that's giving you an advantage? They went into a little bit of that, which I thought was interesting. He sort of spoke about it like an explosion. Like you score a few points, you make a few defensive plays, the next thing you know, you're right back in it. The crowd gets you going. They get even louder and louder and louder somehow, and it feels like sound is just raining down. So sound is going to affect both players audibly from each team's the same. Is it just the perception of the sound that,
Probably,
oh,
and
these guys are making sound against me versus these guys are making sound for me, that really is going to give you that much of an advantage?
probably, I imagine so. That it does play quite a big role. If you imagine people shouting and booing you the whole what uh, hour or so you're playing,
Hmm. And how
um,
close is it? I think it was already at that point as close as it is now, but
mm,
you could I don't think you're allowed degrading comments. I think you're allowed to swear them from front court seats and like say whatever you want. So you got to deal with that as well. And I mean, you're talking about some of the teams that they played, like in New York, and guys are going to be saying stuff at you, man. So I think that also maybe that's where it comes from. Is like having dudes like that are super close to you, shouting whatever they're possibly allowed to say in their stadiums.
yeah, and I think that was well, yeah, when the Bulls went and played away, and they showed scenes in that of the people outside the stadium and that, and how all the how degrading they were of the bulls, and that they had a bull on a spit, um, and
Yeah.
that was just So you could imagine just going in your bus down to the stadium and that, and you're seeing all this outside, like already that's playing mental games with you.
Yeah, so that was a very good point. Uh, I wanted to ask you, what were your overall thoughts on the series? Haven't been because I came into this haven't watched. I downloaded a download pack once called the Jordan documentary pack, which was put together very nicely by someone on the internet, which basically put a whole bunch of really good documentaries. There was one called Air Jordan. There was one called Jordan's Playground. Um, Really put together a nice pack of those, and if you watch that, it gives you a thorough background. Like it goes into a bit of the background scenes of like Space Jam. It gets a bit more exclusive content on the Dream Team and things like that. So I was coming off like really knowing the guy pretty well, and I came across that pack recently before even the announcement of The Last Dance. So this was sort of like a refresher pack, so I could pick out exactly what was the exclusive stuff, and man did they have access, because throughout that pack, through all the different documentaries they made about Jordan during the year, you rarely ever see him, like in most of the times you see him in The Last Dance, man. He never ever appears vulnerable. He literally appears like a god.
Mm. Oh, obviously as well. I think he wouldn't let that come out while he was playing, or while he was in his prime and that. So now that it's long gone, it's past, uh, his career is done and dusted. It's okay if it comes out, really. He's made his money. He's won his championships. So it's okay if people see him in that state that they're not used to. So yeah, and it was, but yeah.
So it's after the sixth one. I mean, it's very iconic, him saying the 666 to everyone and to the cameras and the media and things. That's very iconic for me, because that's the end for me
Yeah,
mentally of Jordan. That's the end for most people. He gave the six. He went off into the sunset, and only the Jordan purists know what happened next, which is like magnificent, man. He was around for many years. He was around right up until 2003. We got to enjoy him for like another 8 or 9 years after 1990. On 1998, you
yeah.
got to enjoy him for a proper 5, 6 years after that. So it was good, man. It was an excellent documentary. I don't think. Well, obviously, episode 10, where they ended off, was when they finally, The Last Dance, they finally
Split basically.
The Last Dance. For some reason, that was the last season Phil Jackson was going to be there. Um, Whoever made that decision will forever be questioned. And that was the end of it. Everyone went their separate ways, so to speak. Eventually, horrible images of seeing Scottie Pippen in a Trailblazers uniform, or seeing Jordan in a Wizard. It's not right. It
Yeah.
will never. It will
It,
never be.
I don't know if you know, did any of those guys that did leave after, the sixth or the third in that one, um, did any of them end up playing on a team that actually won again?
Um, no, not that I'm aware of.
Because your
Um,
Wizards were nowhere near
Wizards were never nowhere near there. Trailblazers were decent. I'm not exactly sure which team Rodman went to after that. I'm not the biggest Rodman fan. I won't lie. Not that I have anything against him, but um, I feel as if with people like that, they kind of have an arc to their life. Like there's a meaning to it. I think his is just haphazard and weird. Uh, I mean the makeup, the bridal stuff. I mean, do you, bro? But I mean, like, take us somewhere, make a point, be a rebel with the cause. You know, your cause can't be to be a drug addict and be random and end up in North Korea. That's not a cause. So yeah, if being random's your thing, we have something like that. Being edgy and stuff, it's called Jackass. Can watch that. I'm not the biggest Rodman fan. Pippen, I love Pippen, but the nice thing is about Pippen, we have him back on ESPN, so we get Pippen almost every day.
Yeah, but that's kind of where it ends, really. And
Yeah, in terms of that, definitely not the podcast, because now that North South's back, now that I see Bundesliga, I heard that Premier League's back on the 17th. North South's going to be back proper. Now I can put you on the spot and I can ask you a question. Is Jordan the greatest athlete of all time?
I don't know. That's a difficult one to
Okay.
answer
So
because
okay. So what are we speaking about here? Just quick, like a couple of minutes. Let's make some aspects here that we need in an athlete.
well, it's difficult, but
Basic. Let's make some basic ones. All right.
like
You'd want
sprinting,
strength.
yeah,
So that's strength.
yeah,
I mean, so that's speed.
speed, yeah,
So you'd want speed. You'd want strength. You'd want
agility,
agility. You'd want Darren height. Darren.
yeah,
I'm
height.
sorry. I don't mean to be funny, but like
Yeah,
a tall person will always have an advantage. It's just like a bigger person.
yeah,
Everything's bigger, from their fingers to their hands to their shins to everything is bigger if they're taller. So that's 4. And the 5th one I wanted to say is skill. Let's put skill as one of them. If you understand what I'm saying, the ability to do your craft well,
yeah.
to a level that's better than anyone else. And honestly, I've had this decision with so many of my friends, Darren, and sometimes the discussions last so long. So I'll boil it down for you. What basically happens? Some sports in this conversation get wiped out, like one's cricket, unfortunately.
Yeah, that I could agree with that.
One's cricket, unfortunately, which
Oh.
is so sad for you and I in this podcast. There's not even one. You can't even be like, oh, like Chris Gayle or something. I mean, like, you can choose any sport. Someone's a better athlete than Chris Gayle, man. That's
Yeah,
the first one. That's horribly tragic. The second thing that's sad is soccer, is football. It's 1 or 2, man. Okay, Cristiano Ronaldo. That's the first one we can put in the conversation. Do you agree or not?
yeah,
Do you think so? For
Yeah.
soccer.
yeah, definitely.
Best athlete in the history of soccer, if we speak about those characteristics.
Yeah, I would say so.
I'd also say so. The other one we looked at was like what you think you should look at, like boxing. Boxers aren't that fast at running, man. It's a little known fact. They run forever, but they're sprinting and stuff like that. There's not a lot of times that a boxer needs to sprint very far. They need a lot of endurance and a lot of cardio in their legs. They don't need to sprint anywhere.
But then you've got to
Um,
also think of like someone like Muhammad Ali,
Okay,
who's
okay.
great skill, tall, got the agility, may lack speed in the sense of sprinting, but definitely got the
Got the skill.
skill,
Okay,
the build.
okay. I'd be honest with you. I'd put him in the conversation. I was thinking the same thing for boxing, and I think there's like 3 other sports that you could take. We leave basketball for last because that's where the main guys come from. The next one's the NFL, and unfortunately, my knowledge is not deep enough to know the pure athleticism of the guys. I'm sure there are guys that are good, but I just don't see one that stands out to the level of being the best athlete of all time. If you say put him on an obstacle course versus put him in a swimming pool versus, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then you also,
Yeah.
then or going on from NFL, then what about rugby?
There you go. That's the one I wanted to speak to you about a little bit. Because I know you'd have a few guys, but I want to challenge you on one of the aspects we named, speed. So you
Yeah.
got to have all the other ones. You got to have the height, the strength, you got to have the agility, and you got to have the skill. I need all those plus speed for you to put a rugby player in that
Okay.
conversation.
Well, we'll look at someone like Vanna Kok, sevens rugby player for South Africa.
Okay.
Huge, built wise, probably. Well, I think he's just over 6 foot. Speed, he's got the speed for sure. Got the agility for sure. Amazing build. Yeah. So
Okay,
I
so
was-
so possibly the only thing we could say there in terms of him representing the rugby fraternity as a whole is skill. His skill level compared to everyone in the history of rugby is basically sitting at not close to 10. If you put him skill wise in every single level like we've done with the other guys. And there's only like 3 more spots left.
Yeah, okay, I would say that because obviously if you're looking at also success to justify that skill,
Darren, I couldn't find a rugby player, I'll be honest with you. I tried Etzebeth, I tried some of the early 2000 Kiwi forwards, loose forwards. I tried quite a
Oh.
few guys technically wise.
What
I
about-
couldn't get one.
what about Dan
Yeah.
Carter?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wow, skills.
Not
got
enough.
this-
No strength, no height, um, agility compared to the other sports. He's got nothing. He's one of the best rugby players of all time, and I think we did name him the best rugby player of all time.
Yeah, we did.
Just shows you get the skill level high enough, you'll flip and you'll do it like Steve Smith does do it, and not ever mentioned or be laughed at for being mentioned in a best athlete conversation.
Yeah. Well, I see Nish has mentioned Tyson, but
Yes, Tyson.
if I had to put Tyson versus Ali, I think Ali's got it just.
You think so? What makes you think that? You think like because I'm almost a boxing purist when it comes to it. Like we could literally go boxing as if we're boxing, speaking boxing. I think he'd just keep him there. He wouldn't let him come close. He'd pick him off on points. He wouldn't let him do a Tyson. And when you're looking at athlete versus athlete, is that how we're going to put them up? Or because we're having a fun conversation, could we say who win an obstacle course or something like that? But technically wise, if Tyson was as tall as Ali, Tyson would be almost the second or third best athlete of all time, Darren.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's the tall score that just drops the average, man.
Speed probably, because obviously being a heavyweight
A boxer.
in that. Yeah, it's
Boxer and being a heavyweight.
yeah.
So we left with. There's one other guy I seem to be forgetting that's quite prominent in the conversation, and that is Usain Bolt.
Yeah. From an athletics perspective, obviously speed and agility. That's down. Tall as all hell. Got a good build. He's got that muscle, that force behind him. Skill wise, you've got to say, as sprinting goes, he's got it.
Jordan level, savant level, better than everyone else who's ever tried sprinting or ever tried running fast. You just that's simple.
That iconic image of him winning the gold in Beijing, looking back at the rest of the contestants as he passes the line, shattering the world record.
Shout out Simbane for being right there for all those iconic moments, man. Couple meters behind, but it's Bolt. You there, dude. You're a legend, dude. Shout out.
Yeah. But yeah, then I guess we're on to the NBA guys then.
Yeah, we're on to no, it's only two, man. It's only two. I had this deep discussion with many of my friends. It's only two. You can go back and forth, but it boils down to two, and it's LeBron and it's Jordan.
And Nish has also mentioned Phelps, which is...
Yes, that's another one I forgot. What do you have to think about that? Because I'd put him in the conversation to represent a sport that could give a proper nomination.
But you also... It's difficult when you're speaking about this because, like you say, speed and...
Okay, let's do a Phelps analysis before we have the final choice that's being made.
But look, if the one thing I want to get at is that if, like, when you say speed, you think overland, you think on land. Phelps can't run fast because he's got shorter legs and a bigger torso. So he's probably not a good sprinter on land, but he swims fast as all hell in the pool.
Yeah, so that's a low speed score. Well, not a very low speed score because he does, technically, humanly speaking, when you're speaking about an athlete, move very fast through a medium.
Yes, exactly.
Which is water.
So
his speed is an asterisk on that one. It's a bit weird. The dude's one of the best butterfly swimmers of all time. That's pure strength to me, man. It's pure fucking strength to me. Backstrokes, pure strength, breaststroke, all different parts, and just so much better than everyone else for so many decades. Like, just gold after silver after gold, more medals than anyone else in any other Olympic discipline.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think Nish is right on that one. Phelps definitely in the conversation there.
But if we had to pick one out of Phelps or Bolt, which one would you pick?
I would pick Bolt because
I would do the same.
I don't know if it's South African, but I feel as if they should fight for it. and then I feel as if I'd see who I think would win. So I pick Bolt.
Yeah, I'd pick Bolt as well. So okay.
Yeah. So we're on to the final two, and it come down to strength, Darren, because intangibles all seem to match up. Major flaw, which isn't one of our five, which could be. The only reason I took it out is to make it a bit easier to discuss over this time length, is something called clutch moments.
Well,
Which if was a score, Dan Carter would be right up there.
yeah.
Jordan would be right. Quite a few guys that got put down, especially cricketers, would have such high clutch scores because you clutch every ball. You could go out at every single ball.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you're looking at just the NBA sense, then the two players you're looking at are Jordan and LeBron. And if you look height wise, speed wise,
Okay, we actually can. We're looking at 6'6" versus 6'8", negligible. Agreed.
yeah,
We're looking at weight, huge difference, a lot heavier,
LeBron.
a lot heavier.
But yeah,
I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm not exactly sure of the number, but a lot heavier. And it's not because of fat. I can tell you that.
no.
So can we extrapolate strength is better? And there were times during that documentary. Should we call it a Jordan-mentary? By the way, there were times during that documentary where Jordan looked huge, dude. Like, I'm not kidding, man.
Yeah, especially when when
looked
he started lifting and that.
He
Yeah,
looked
a lot of
he
muscle.
looked as there have been times like Miami LeBron where, man, the dude was jacked. He was just at his prime. We're talking 2013 to 2016, 2017. Just Superman stuff. But then there have been times where he became thin, like when he first went to the Lakers. But keep in mind, when he gets thin, I personally think he's right there with Jordan on speed. So this one's tough, man, and I'm going to leave it to you, Darren. This one's tough.
Well, yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot there.
We're back to North-South now, man. We're back to North-South. Things are normal now.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like it just depends at what point you look at them
You gotta
in their
pick
career.
one, man.
But
I
okay,
promise you, Darren, this debate right here has taken place on network radio, network television, network everything for hours, on the internet for days and months and years, and it's raged. And the one thing it always boils down to is, just wait for the career to finish, then we'll see.
yeah,
This time I do get to put you on the spot. I'm talking about basketball.
yeah,
Who's the better athlete?
yeah.
Who's the better athlete, man? Put it this way: aliens come, they say, "Show us your,
Yeah.
prototype of your human that you say that evolution or God has created this. Show us the one that you consider, in all aspects that we said. Who you showing? Who you putting up?
If
They don't make him take a shot or anything like that. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about that. It's just, who would you pick?
if you had to look at them side by side, say in their primes, it would be very difficult to distinguish which would be the leader in that sense. But like you say, if you had to throw in another category to try define them, like the clutch moments.
Like the clutch. We can throw it in for them if you'd like, because would you agree with me that no one else is within the the conversation of top two? Top two, Darren.
I guess
because I've had this conversation and I've literally gone to say each one, and I think this is the top two, man. I think this is the short conversation on the top two.
I would guess so. You also it's so difficult when it comes to NBA because there are so many just such good athletes that play in the NBA. You just look at Russell Westbrook and that. His agility and speed and that with the ball. Even now.
I'm so glad you said that. Because it's true. We're talking about minuscule differences here.
Yeah.
Minuscule differences.
This is minute. But yeah, if you're looking at clutch moments, then you've got to say Jordan. Just
taking out that aspect, do you think it changes the score materially enough to change the decision?
Possibly.
Interesting as hell, man. Interesting as hell.
If it wasn't for those moments and not knowing that, then I would say LeBron.
Because I'll be honest with you, man. For me, that's it. That series versus Boston, that LeBron choked. Oh man, dude. Oh, it's the deciding factor, man. I love LeBron James to death, dude. I think he's the best basketball player of all time. And I know that's sacrilegious right now to say that, given what our series, this whole documentary is. But I'll die on that hill. I think he's the best of all time. But being an academic, I have to be honest with you, man. You want to be called the greatest athlete of all time, you're going to choke like that? Like that? He didn't just choke if you look at it. If you look at a LeBron James documentary, he like absolutely choked. Like single digits in a freaking almost finals game choke. Like I'm talking about that bad. Like not just choke in a moment, let a goal in or whatever it is in sport. I'm talking about like missing and having something like 12 turnovers in a game. Like Jordan would never ever do that, man. That's literally that. If I'm arguing with someone and they bring that up, dude, I'm like, whoa, shit, couldn't refute it, so therefore I can't say that it's not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you, man. I think looking at what you use as your categories, it would change things. It definitely would change things.
Yeah, it's difficult. That's a real difficult one when trying to pick like the best sports person or athlete ever.
Any honorable mentions from your side? I know I'd say AB de Villiers if he was taller and a bit stronger, because his skill level's just like berserk, man.
No, I don't
Like
think.
speed.
I don't think there's enough there to warrant him.
Oh, so Darren, what do you have against the guy? That is so mean. That's so horrible.
No, I've got nothing against him, but I'm saying like if you're talking about the greatest athletes of all time,
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't put him up
What would
there.
you say?
Um,
I'm trying for cricket, Darren. I am trying. Can you not see me? I'm trying for our beloved sport, yeah.
I would say from a rugby side, you look at someone like Joe Malomo.
Joe Malone, I think Eben Etzebeth as well, man. Honestly, like if you're looking at just physicality, dude, can't think of anyone else as tall and as agile and as other aspects except for pure speed.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's anyone else that comes to mind right now. You'd have to sit down and scroll through
Yeah,
hours and hours of.
which trust me, I have done. Like, if you sit down and have this conversation over each sport, like I've had it with people over things like even ice hockey,
Yeah.
like trying to pull someone just to put in the mix, and there's just certain scores that are so high that defeat someone so badly that it's just you can't say they're a better athlete, man.
Yeah, I see Nish has also mentioned the mountain. So, yeah, from a strength side of things, from height, from a skill set, possibly, agility,
I think that
maybe
I think
not.
that he runs so slow that he's possibly going backwards. That's what I think about the mountain.
So yeah, probably from the strength side of things, obviously.
Any UFC fighters you can think of, Darren, that you could put in that mix? John Jones, maybe?
Yeah, John Jones definitely. I see Nish just mentioned him as well. Yeah, he's got to be up there. And you've also got to look at like maybe someone like, but then yeah, like a Max Holloway or something like that. That's obviously not as tall, but definitely agile, fast. Got all the other criteria down. But yeah, I'm sure there are a few UFC fighters because that when it comes to something like that, you do have to be a very well-rounded athlete to fight continuously in that.
But do you know that a lot of people say that you can only choose the greatest athlete from the UFC or boxing because to show athleticism in their aspect is to fight the person, which I completely disagree with.
Yeah,
completely disagree.
well, if you really thought about it, the best athlete would come from the Olympics because that's the whole thing of the Olympics. That's why it was born, is to have these amazing athletes face off against each other. So if I had to pick, if I had to pick one athlete, it would have to come from the Olympics because that's what the Olympics was there for and why it was started. And
Yeah, and then of course, last thing from my side, I think technically it would, if you really drill it down to science, it's probably is it called a decathlon, Darren?
yeah, I think it's decathlon.
I think it's
the
probably
eighth.
someone. I think it's probably someone like that. Like
Yeah.
if you put it down to pure numbers, it's
Yeah.
probably someone of those individuals.
Yeah, because that is you got to perform in 8 different events basically, and you get scored on each one, and that's all.
And some of them are tremendously skillful. Some of them are tremendously brute force, and tremendous, just pure speed, and they are just professional in each one of them. So I think pure numbers wise, beside fan talk like we have, would probably come from that.
Yeah,
Or if
definitely.
not, maybe even a triathlete, maybe Darren.
Yeah, triathlete obviously also. You got because obviously you got the cycling, the running, and the swimming part of it. But yeah, when it comes to decathlon and Olympics, I would say that's probably the best because you're doing the sprinting, you're doing shot put and that power and force. You're doing the high jump and that, so you're testing your bit of your agility, speed kind of
Yeah.
thing in there as
But
well.
do you think it's sad that the entire cycling fraternity gets left out,
Mm.
even though they have like the best endurance out of everyone else, just for the mere fact that their upper body is like almost in a
Twigs.
like I'm almost concerned for the upper body if the lower body wasn't so developed.
Yeah,
It's so sad that their endurance it just doesn't count for enough because they're supreme athletes, man. They deserve to be spoken about in some aspect. Any of the long distance runners and any of the endurance guys.
yeah, like a Mo Farah and all those kind of guys.
Oh,
And
absolutely. And just comes to my mind are gymnasts as well.
mm,
I don't think we watch enough. I don't think it's popular enough
mm.
for us to really put them in the discussion, but I think they could be.
Yeah,
Definitely could think of it.
definitely. But yeah, um, yeah, I think that's all from my side. So
Yeah,
if you
excellent
want to
documentary.
wrap
Enjoyed
it,
it. Excellent documentary. Enjoyed it from start to finish. I recommend it's a wonderful documentary to fall asleep to. Um, I mean, there's nothing better. There's
fall
nothing
asleep
better
to.
than that. Yeah, man, it's an excellent thing that's going to be enjoyed for decades to come, and I can't wait to show my kids and my grandkids about this dude called Michael Jordan, which would probably sound super generic back then. Probably have to try and pay them to listen about it, but yeah, I think it's the quintessential, it's the one that you'd show, man. It's got everything in it. So
Yeah, I've got to agree.
as IMDb says, you'd never give a 10, but 9.5.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, hopefully we'll be doing some more streams coming up.
Yeah, no, Bundesliga, Premier League, UFC. We'll do some boxing. Things are back to normal.
Yeah, but that's all for now. So we'll catch you on the flip side, everyone.
Cheers, guys.